My real motivation was to get out of practicing law, but I was a specialist in the field of banking and was, in fact, the nation's leading specialist because it's what I had taught uh, on the Bank Holding Company Act of 1970. So I had a real path in. It was at a time when there were essentially no women CEOs. I was probably the only one for 40 states around. Jefferson became the largest bank in the local bank in the Philadelphia area. And ultimately, we sold it to Hudson United in '99. One of the themes of my life is that I like to reinvent myself every 5 years. I was very focused in the '90s on how people would access their money, investments, relationships 10 years out. And it took me a couple of years to find the right buyer and to have the right format. But the Bancorp became the first virtual bank that provided a bank wrapper for non-bank fintech companies, and so really facilitated the growth of that industry. When I left 15 years later as CEO, we had 1,600 fintech companies on our platform, and it enabled me to understand what worked and what didn't work, and to move forward with the next phase of what I thought might be appropriate. Having had 15-year relationships with many of these companies, I could really see that there were some that would benefit from being in the public market, both as access to capital for some of them, name recognition for others. There were a variety of reasons, but it meant that I could practice my reinvention technique and move on to the world of special purpose acquisition corporations, which allowed me to provide capital to fintech companies that, in fact, had the infrastructure, corporate infrastructure in place to be good public companies and had recurring income and all of the things that the public markets look for. A SPAC is, among other things, a legal vehicle in which you can transform your company from a private company to a public company, and therefore have access to public market capital. It provides the first lump of capital, which is often very helpful, both to the continued building and scaling of a company, but also providing employees an opportunity to participate in a currency that is by way of participating in the company through public currency, and to do acquisitions and other things. Having a platform on which we had so many fintech companies enabled us to identify markers of potential success. And so it's executive capacity, it's the ability to identify a differentiated product, and many other characteristics as well, certainly meeting an unmet need. And that's always been one of my themes, so to speak, which is that I'm always looking for the negative space. I'm always looking for what isn't being done rather than what is being done. We think that the current level of technology enables companies to meet what we see to be the current demand, which is to navigate virtual financial services in a way that is seamless. That means you don't have to think about what your next step is, but the next step is provided to you, and therefore both stimulates your thinking, but also allows you to have easy access. So we've been calling it embedded finance, but we think that for the next 2 to 5 years, or some number of years that I can't really predict, that will be a big effort. In Arta, I really do see a vehicle which will allow not the whole world, but a broader range of people to organize their thinking around their investments. You're not going to make every investment for them, but you're going to give them an opportunity to have a directed thinking process about the investing that they do. And that's really the most helpful because it feels to many people so daunting. I mean, there is so much information out there. There's so much overload. So the curation that we were talking about just before is really a critical element. And I think that's really at the nub of what Arta wants to provide.